My name is Tanya Short. I am the Health and Human Sciences educator with Purdue Extension in Knox County, and we have been putting together these series with our colleagues from across the Southwest region. And today I am joined by Dr. Megan Brothers, who is my colleague in Vanderburgh County, and she is going to be talking about finding routine in a new normal. Do we even know what normal is? Sometimes I wasn't sure what normal was before COVID, so even more so now. How do we find that? How do we still instill those routines that are so valuable to our health and to our children's health? And find out how to define what's important to us so that we can move forward in a way that's fulfilling. So with that, I will go ahead and hand things off to Megan.
Great. Thank you, Tanya. So welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about routines and a little bit about what this new normal means. So if you haven't yet, please share with us in the chat what you did over the weekend, even if it was nothing, that can be something, as Joe put in the chat for us. So Kathy, I'm really glad to hear that you went fishing. I have not gone fishing in years and years and years and years and years, but hopefully one of these days I'll get back to it. So share with us what you did over the weekend. But today we're really going to talk about, and I'm going to do a lot of throwing some questioning at you guys. So if you have a piece of paper and a pencil, or if you want to go grab one real quick, I want you guys to do some reflecting today and really think about some things today as we're talking. And I put this term new normal, which is a term that has really been very popular in the recent news, in the recent social media posts, and even in conversations that I've had with people, is what everything is in this new normal, or the new normal, and everything is about this, what we're calling a new normal. And as I was thinking about it, and as we as educators were discussing what topics we wanted to have for this webinar series, I wanted to do this topic because you have to think about what that new normal is, right? It's not necessarily the same. And as Tanya mentioned, we may not even have had a normal beforehand. So what I want you guys to do before we really dig in deep is to think about, you can share this in the chat, or you're also welcome just to write it down, or even just think about it for yourself. But think about, I have a couple questions. So think about first what your normal looked like before this pandemic. Then I also want you to now think about, what does your normal look like now, and how has it changed, or has it changed? Maybe your answer is it's the same essentially. But to think about how it's changed, we have to kind of reflect on what it looked like beforehand. So think about, I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to think about this. What did your normal look like before? What does it look like now? And maybe how has it changed since COVID-19, or even just how has your life changed, because other circumstances happen in our lives too. So I'm gonna give you guys a couple minutes. You're welcome to share it in the chat, or you're welcome just to think about it on your own. So if you'd like to share in the chat how that has changed, how has your normal changed?
So we've got a few people sharing that work has mostly stayed the same, but home life is different because of the kids and their schedule. Others have shared that they're mainly working at home now, learning some new technology, as we all have been thrust into, right? Having to be careful around our parents since our kids are out and about more and we, have to risk that exposure. People sharing they're going out less compared to their normal, less commuting, which could be a pro or a con, right? Less travel for pleasure, though, also more time for exercise. That's good. But then less social interaction. Definitely doing more online. Still have just as many meetings and appointments and things to do, but how we do them has changed a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yes, great answers, everyone. And until you really sit down and think about it, we don't always see. So when I put this together, I thought, oh, normal equals this new normal, quote unquote, new normal is bad, right? And we're going to talk about how it's not good and how it's more stress and causing people to be overwhelmed. But you guys shared some things that are also more positive. And if I had asked you this question a year ago, what does your normal look like? You'd probably have to really think about it. Like, I never really thought about what my normal day-to-day looked like. I just was getting through every day. So I think in some ways, this new normal, this change in our normal world has allowed us to really take an opportunity to think about what that looks like. And not just what it looks like, but also what we want it to look like. So we'll talk more about that. But you guys shared things like we're staying at home more. We're staying home to stay safe, definitely affecting social interactions for sure. My mom has not gone out. She's gone out, I think, twice since all of this happened. And she's go to church every Sunday, and she'd go out with her friends to eat, but she hasn't done any of that. And it's really tough when you're staying at home more. On the flip side of that too, though, I've been seeing a lot of people do lots of decluttering and lots of purging and getting rid of things in their homes, reorganizing homes, spending time with their kids more, or even just spending time on themselves. So staying home for sure has been how a new normal has changed. In addition, we are much more cognizant of our space with each other. So even when we're in public, we're always thinking about how far away that person is from us, right? Before we're like, whatever, we're right up on top of each other. But now we have to really be morally cognizant of our space and our surroundings and how many people are in a space that we're in. And also, you're always thinking about, do I have my mask with me, right? So I was out running some errands, which is not really usual for me. And I was getting ready to walk in the store and realized, oh, I don't have my mask. So I had to turn around and go home because I didn't have my mask. But we're much more cognizant about that extra accessory. As we're walking out the door, it's not just grab the keys, grab the phone. It's grab keys, grab phone, make sure we have our mask with us. So those kind of extra things that we are more cognizant of well. Our work life might look different. We might be working at home more, or we might be working with fewer people in our office, or our hours might have changed some. But in addition to that, we might be working with our kids at home and trying to balance how to get work done while taking care of kids. They might have toys on the table while we're trying to work on things from home or manage how that all works. Or we might be looking for a job. We might have lost a job and we might be looking for something new, or our job has been severely restricted in hours, or our pay has been affected. All of those different things could be happening to cause our new normal. In addition, maybe our kids are home doing school. So our kids are home more, and either by the fact that we're not going out as often or they're at home doing school, but either way, our kids are probably home a little bit more often. So that we also might be, how our housework is being done might be affected a little bit. I'm noticing that personally. That's not actually a picture of my kitchen, but I will admit my kitchen has looked a little bit like that in the past. But getting things done around the house might be different too. Even though we're home, that housework might be taking secondary, right? Because we're doing so many other things and trying to juggle so many other things. So your normal might look like all of that. Your normal might look completely different from that. But when you start listing all of those things that are changing, we might start to get kind of stressed. And this is what I kind of felt like for a while of there's too much going on. There's too many things I'm trying to juggle and I couldn't do any of it effectively is what I was feeling like. So when we get to that point, or hopefully you didn't get to that point, maybe you did, maybe you're past it. We're all in different varying levels of this process, but it gives us a chance to really think about why is this happening? What do we want our normal to look like? What do I want my day to look like so that I don't have this high stress, high anxiety to cause me to be overwhelmed? So what do we have to do to look at our day? And so what I want you guys to really do and to think about is, what does your day look like? And I'm going to give you guys a minute to write down. You can share in chat or you can just write it down. Give me a general idea of what your day looks like. Or just think about, what does your day look like? And I know every day is a little different, but generally, what does your day look like? Are you finding that to be difficult to do? And if you're finding it really difficult to give me a sense, or to even come up with a sense of what your day looks like, then that tells us that you really need to take an extra look and see and really listen to the rest of my presentation, because that means that we don't have a routine. And I noticed just in conversations and seeing social media posts and news that even if we had a really nice routine, those routines ran right out the window when things happened, when we all started staying at home more. And many people have gotten back into a routine, but even since then, I have noticed that some people really are kind of living this life of no routine, kind of a chaotic, just day to day, even hour to hour kind of living. And that's where a lot of that stress and anxiety can come from, is when we don't know what our day looks like and we don't know what is coming next. And we're so worried about what could happen or what might happen that we aren't able to focus on what we need to get done during that day, or what we can do during that day. So a fix to that, or something that we need to take a step and really look at, is routines. So routines have shown, and I've got lots of handouts that we'll share with you guys about this, but routines really are good for our health and our well-being. They give us, and if you have kids, they give your kids, but they also give us a sense of security. We know what's coming up. If we have a routine every day, we know what to expect, what's coming up. And it helps us and it helps our kids to predict and to know, okay, I will eat today, or I will have time to do this because it's part of my routine. So because of that, it actually frees up our mental space to be able to focus on other things. So we don't have to think about, okay, I have to think about lunch, or I have to make some food, or I have to eventually go get groceries, or I need to go get this task done because it's part of our routine. So it allows us to not have to think about it as far as worrying and adding to that stress and anxiety, but it allows us to have more space in our mind to be able to think about, okay, what's this task in front of me? And I can focus a little bit better on what's in front of me instead of thinking about the 5 things ahead that I have to get done. It helps us with planning so that we know, okay, yes, eventually I'm gonna have to get groceries. So instead of me constantly thinking throughout my day, I need to get this, I need to add this, I need to add this, or I need to get laundry done, I know that, okay, here's my laundry time. So I don't have to think about getting laundry done because it's part of my routine to do housework at this time of the day. So I don't have to worry about it. And I can plan for, yes, the laundry, the dishes will get done, the groceries will get ordered, but I don't have to worry about it all day long and think about how I'm not going to get that done. When we have kids, or if we have a partner, or even really just with ourselves, it helps us to line out those roles and responsibilities. If you have kids, it's great to teach them responsibility, to give them tasks throughout a day so that they know what they're responsible for, so that they're not constantly begging you or talking to you about, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. And they know that these are the tasks that are their responsibility for that day or even that week. And so it gives you less argument, less time to stress about that as well. It even gives you kind of that responsibility of knowing what you need to get done, really prioritize what is really important for either that day or that week, so that then again, it kind of reduces that stress, allows you to focus more fully on those things that you need to be focused on. And I don't know about you guys, but when I make a to-do list, my favorite thing is to like check stuff, cross stuff off of it. So when you have a routine and you're able to like get all of those things done in a day, you feel so good about feeling like you got everything done. Have you ever had a day where you are at the end of your day and you're like, I have no idea what I just did today? And you're just in a place where you are overwhelmed and you don't feel like you actually did anything. I've been there before, and it's because we didn't have a routine. We didn't have that list of things that we wanted to do. Of course you do stuff during the day. You're doing stuff all day, every day. But when we don't allow ourselves to have that routine, then we have an entire day where we don't feel like we did anything because we didn't either have it written down or we didn't have it in our mind as part of that routine. So that helps us to really get that sense of, yes, I did something and it felt good to get that thing done. So I want to know now, how many of you guys actually have a routine that you follow most of the time? Yeah, give you guys a chance to answer that in the chat.
So we had at least one person answer to your previous inquiry about routines, and it sounded like she had a pretty regular routine that ended with go to bed and do it again tomorrow. In parentheses, love weekends.
Yes.
Let's see, we got some more coming in. Every day, yes, routine, pretty much. I do mostly, yes. Keyword most of the time, usually. So it looks like we're at least on the high end there.
That's good. Good. So I want to make a distinction here too. So there's a difference between a routine and a schedule. So a schedule is at 8 o'clock I wake up, right? Yeah, right. Or like at 6:30 I wake up, or even earlier than that. But it's at 6 o'clock I wake up. At 6:30 I eat breakfast. At 7:30 we take the kids to school. At 11 o'clock I eat lunch. So that's a schedule. That is a hour by hour, even sometimes 15-minute intervals of what your day looks like or what your planning looks like. Whereas your routine is just the list of things that you do during the day. So I want to make that distinction because people can get really stressed out by having a schedule. Sometimes schedules lock us in and make it so rigid to where we are causing more stress if the schedule isn't followed. So I want to, if you're new to this, or even if you're finding that the schedule is difficult to follow because maybe you woke up a little later, or traffic was bad, so it threw your time schedule off, then maybe focus more on that routine piece of just what are you doing during the day versus the actual timeline associated with it. But sometimes on the other end of that too, sometimes we need a little bit more of a schedule, because if I just say I'm going to wake up, I'm going to have some coffee, start work, then sometimes that is harder for us to actually get that motivation. Like this morning, a little tough to get started because it's dreary outside. My daughter even said, the sun's not out. It's not time to wake up yet. And I thought, well, that's a good point, because usually she's up with the sun. So when there's no sun, you're like, there's no, it's not really daylight, right? So sometimes when we don't have that real strict schedule, it's hard. But if you do have a schedule, it's really, really important to allow yourself some flexibility with it. If we have a really strict schedule that we get stressed if we don't follow to the T, then it's just going to cause more problems. So schedule is fine time-wise. We have to have some flexibility with it. So some things that I want you guys to think about, and I want you guys to answer what kinds of these things on this list do you have included in your routines right now? What kinds of things do you think you should add? Maybe you don't have some of these things in your routine. So I want you guys to take a look at that list, compare it to what your routine might look like, and share with us in the comments if you have things in addition to this that aren't on this list that you have as part of your routine, share those as well.
So we've got one person that said, oh, well, thank you, Connie. Because of this series, I have added in more physical activity to counterbalance that antsy feeling. So should we infer from your statement that it's been successful at kind of countering some of your angst? Brooke shared that she personally needs more quiet time, personal time in her routine because we're just go, go, go and never stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I had also put that I'm not very good at the just letting that creative activity time, letting your mind wander and have nothing to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
Some more votes for needing more exercise and personal time.
Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, we all have to eat throughout a day. So meals, those are going to be part of our routine. Our work schedule, our work time meetings, that'll be part of our routine, right? But in our wake up and our bedtime, we wake up every morning, we go to sleep every night. But usually the things that don't get included are those quiet times, our self-care time, that almost always is what goes out the window first, which can include exercise, it can include quiet time, but any other kind of self-care activities, because when we're go, 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 we're focusing on everything else that needs our attention and not on ourselves usually. So those things that are selfish activities get lost or they don't get included. So if you struggle with those things, I encourage you to include those as part of your routine. And there's a handout that focuses on exercising as part of your routine. And it's so important. I was talking with someone the other day about it, and they're like, you have to actually schedule it in your day and keep to it. Make it like an appointment on your calendar to do. Because if you don't make it an appointment, if you don't make it a priority, then it's easy to be like, oh, well, I have this hour, I can get these emails read, or I can do this task, or I can do laundry, or whatever else it is. And so it's like really easy to forget it and to let it go. But those are really important things. If you've been on any of our other calls, you know how important that exercise, that sleep, that self-care time, that quiet time is for your mental health. So you have to include those in your routine. If you don't, they're not going to happen. And also, if you look at your day, if you actually look at what your day looks like, you can see where, because the other excuse people have is, well, I don't have time in my day to exercise, which I have totally done that before, and still struggle with doing it myself too. That's an excuse, right? So if you think about, and I've done a lot of self-reflection getting ready for this presentation, but when I wake up in the morning, I would get in the habit of grabbing my phone, scrolling through, checking email at, 6 o'clock in the morning, which is silly because why do I need to answer an email at 6 o'clock in the morning? But I'd check email and then I'd start scrolling Facebook. And I'd be scrolling Facebook and half an hour later, I'm like, wait a second. Oh no, I'm running late now. And so then I get up and be in a rush trying to get things done. And then I don't have time for exercise. I don't have time for reading. I don't have time for these things, right? But I do if I was to not just aimlessly scroll Facebook in the morning and actually used that half an hour to exercise, to read a book, to have a cup of coffee in silence. So I want you guys, and I'm going to challenge you when you leave today, really take a look and really reflect on what that looks like for you. And I guarantee you'll find time where you can add some of these things that you're missing into your routine. And bedtime is another really big one because Tanya talked about sleep and the importance of sleep. And I have found myself, the world of streaming video is been a downfall for a lot of people because we start binge watching things. And I'm a binge watcher, I will admit, right? And so bedtime comes, I'm exhausted. I finally get my daughter to bed and I'm like, ooh, I can watch a show that's just for me, right? It's not a cartoon and it's not like baby toys. But then I'm sitting there 3 hours later and I'm like, oh, I need to go to bed. And then by that time, I've had so much media thrown at me that I can't fall asleep. So then I don't get good sleep. And so anyway, thinking about really, really pinpointing some of those things in your day that you're struggling with. And I'm super disclosing today, but mealtime is another one. So it needs to be part of your routine to have breakfast, to have lunch, and to have dinner, and even snacks if you want to add those as part of your meals, because it's really easy, especially when things are a little bit more flexible when we're working from home. If you are working from home, that you work and work and work and then forget to eat. And eating is really important. We need to make sure we're eating really highly nutritious food, but eating food. So if I forget to eat a meal and then my brain gets really foggy and I realize it's 3 o'clock and I haven't had lunch, then the whole rest of my day is tough because I'm trying to get back into getting my brain together. And drinking water is the same way. I always have a cup with me, usually water in it or coffee. But that's important too, to make sure we're drinking enough and not just going throughout our day. So as you're processing and thinking through these things, look at those things that you're missing and how can you add those into your day to make them part of your routine. So I'm going to show you guys some examples, and then you guys can share how close yours is to this. So this is a family example. And so this is actually a schedule, but with some flexibility. So again, if you have time with your routine, to make it a little bit more of a schedule, make sure it's flexible, because sometimes we are just not in a space where we can do a certain thing. Like some mornings, you just can't get up to exercise. If that's your morning routine and you just have those days where you can't, make sure that then gets put on to the end of your day. So make sure you take that time, whatever is part of your routine, and put it in a different place if you can't get it done right then. Or if you get a really big phone call or something, or a work meeting, an extension, we work some evenings and even some weekends. So we have to kind of adjust our routines to fit those meetings in with how we're still going to get everything else done in our day. But don't take things out, move them around if you can. So you can see this example. This is a really detail-oriented schedule, which is really helpful for some families. And some of you guys might be looking at this going, oh no, it's never going to work for me. And that's okay too, because everyone's schedule or routines are a little bit different. So how does this compare to what your routine might look like at home? I really love this one because it talks about when electronics are allowed and when they're not allowed. I think that's a really important if you have kids, or even for yourself. I have to kind of make myself put my phone away sometimes so that I'm not just constantly tempted to be involved with my whatever I'm doing. So I don't make myself do the like no electronics, but maybe you need to, if you have it as kind of an addiction, to say no phone after 8 o'clock or something like that. But how does this compare?
So we have a couple comments. This looks like maybe a child's routine. The parent's schedule would have an earlier and later wake up time.
Yeah,
yeah right. I wish I wasn't
Yep.
getting up till 8 a.m. I like the idea of moving things around versus taking them out. That's true. I really personally struggle with that one though. Like when I have a late evening meeting, usually my exercise is just gone for that day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try harder, Megan, just for you. Vary schedules by exercise at lunchtime, getting away from the screen. No outside time or exercise time.
Yes.
Not sure what you meant by that, Yolanda, that you don't normally have those.
Stop. Told you guys my dog would start barking. There's someone outside, so that's why she's barking. And so these are things that we may not always do, but there's a lot of research supporting being outside and the benefits of being outside. And there's benefits to having that quiet time. There's benefits to having like that creative time of where you're like not doing anything and you're just kind of allowing your brain to work. But we're all going to be a little bit different. Sometimes people use outside time as exercise. So that could be an option for you if that's something that works for you, or if it's really cold and like really rainy and gross, well, maybe I'm not going to go outside today. So find something else that might work with. Maybe that's a time for you to catch up on reading. If you have exercise, and sometimes in reality, we do have days where we just can't fit everything in, right? We have really, really busy days. But the idea is to really, if we have it as part of our routine, it's much more likely that we'll actually get to it than if we just say, I'll exercise when I can, right? Because then it's not going to happen unless we really make it a priority for ourselves. Then yes, this is definitely for kids. And I don't know kids that wake up at 8, like that would be, seems a little late for me. But anyway.
We wish, right?
Right, yeah. Although my little one sometimes sleeps in. So this is, you noted too, that within some of these routines, we have what they call subroutines. So those are kind of our going to bed. So bedtime, right? Bedtime is important. But what are we doing before we're going to bed, right? So I just shared my example of how I don't get good sleep because my bedtime routine includes binge watching TV before I'm in bed, and then I can't fall asleep because I have all that blue light exposure to me and my brain is going crazy. So sometimes we have to have those subroutines of, okay, what does our bedtime look like? And there's lots of research, and we'll share these handouts with you guys, of showing how having these steps of how we're going to get ready for bed really helps kids be able to fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, actually sleep in their beds if you have kids that struggle with sleeping on their own. But it helps us too. It helps our brain to start to turn off, right? It helps our brain to start to, when our brains know that these are the steps that are going to happen and then I'm going to fall asleep, we don't have as much of that brain won't turn off, right? It allows the brain to start to settle down to where it can turn off for us to get some sleep. So, and even in the morning, right? So like I said, when I wake up in the morning, I would like start scrolling Facebook. Well, that's not a great routine because then I'm half an hour behind when I could have been doing other things. So kind of giving yourself that subroutine if you need to of, okay, when I wake up, I'm going to get that coffee pot turned on. Or even maybe your bedtime routine includes getting your coffee ready for the morning, or getting your food laid out, your snacks ready for the next day, or your clothes laid out. That could be part of your bedtime routine to help you in the mornings. So that when you wake up, you have your clothes ready. And so that you brush your teeth, wash your face, get your clothes on, and you're ready to go. Versus, oh, I don't know what I'm going to wear. I don't have anything clean. You've already done all that and prepared that. So as you're thinking about that day and processing that, maybe look at those things you can do in the evening that will help you in the morning if your mornings are hectic, or maybe things you can do during the day to help meal prep, to help in the mornings, or to help at night so that you can get your kids to bed a little bit earlier, those kinds of things. So depending on how detail oriented you are, or how anxious you are and how overwhelmed you are with your day to day, any level of this kind of routine can help. So here's an example for just an adult that might fit for you. So we have the family one, and this might be a little bit better for you. So you have your wake up, which means, brushing teeth, getting dressed, washing up, drinking some coffee. Maybe you have your self-care at first thing in the morning and do some reading of some devotionals or reading for pleasure or whatever that looks like. Then you work, lunch. And so you can kind of see where that routine, and so maybe even the exercise and the house cleaning, one room each day, right? So maybe it's even just household chores. And so you have a time set where you're going to work on vacuuming or cleaning out a closet or doing the dishes, so that it's part of your routine, but you don't have to clean the entire house every single day. But having that time set so that this is the time I'm devoting to getting that done. And then if you have to turn off those electronics early, get those things out, set out your clothes, anything like that can make part of your routine can really help you work through that day and be able to, like I said, focus on what you're working on through your day. So how does this compare to some of your individual routines?
So I have a couple questions for you here, Megan. And I'm chuckling at this one because I have a 3-year-old. So how do you house clean with a 2-year-old tornado?
Yep. Yeah, good question. There's a reason you can't see my camera is not facing the other rooms of my house right now. So my house cleaning part of my routine is during the day. So I work from home quite a bit. And it's hard because I can see everything that needs to be done. But usually mine is, and if I do it at nighttime after she's gone to bed, I'm going to wake her up because it's, vacuuming is kind of loud and dishes are kind of loud. But I have found that sometimes even like first thing in the morning, when she's kind of getting herself woken up and playing a little bit, eating her breakfast, I might, spend that 20 minutes and do some dishes. But I've also done some during the day while I'm, taking a break from work or something like that. So it all is going to vary. Some people do better when they can just spend their entire Saturday cleaning, but like, who wants to spend their entire Saturday cleaning? I don't, but I have sometimes because then I don't get it as part of my routine. If your kids are a little older, they might be able to help you with some of that cleaning, maybe. But it's something that I think probably needs to be part of a routine if you can do a room a day. And so you just have to think about when that might work for you. So did I not answer your question good enough there, Tanya?
No, I think that's fair. And I just put in the chat, I think for me, part of it was adjusting my own expectations in that my house was not going to be spick and span there, because it doesn't matter how many times I pick up those toys, they are going to be right back on the floor. And the one day I say, you know what, I'm tired of this, I'm not picking them up today, that's the day somebody comes over.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So another, this was kind of a comment, but I'm going to reframe it as a question. So if someone is still working at home with children and they feel because of frequent interruptions that they're pushed into doing work late into the night, how might they, in a healthy way, adjust that routine?
I've actually been there. So what I have said is you almost have to figure out your time blocks. So you almost have to work in like a 15 to 30 minute block of time. And so I would say most of our work days are about 8 hours, including breaks and lunch and things. So most of us, if you think about trying to get 8 hours of work in, we don't always work 8 full hours every day when we're in an office, right? And some of you might, some days we work a lot more than that, and some days, are a little bit more flexible. But I would say if you know that priority of taking care of your kids and spending time with them, maybe it's give them, 20 minutes and then you work for 20 minutes and then you play for 20 minutes and work for 20 minutes. And being aware of what that looks like. So you almost have to make a schedule for yourself. I had found that I was working, trying to work during the day with her, with all those interruptions. And then I'd be working after she went to bed because I felt like in my head I wasn't working enough. But then when I actually sat down and thought about what I was doing, I was working way, way more than I really needed to have been every day. So I was able to kind of cut that back and recognize and kind of take care of myself a little bit too, because we don't need to work 24 hours a day. And like I said, I said I would get up and check my email immediately. Well, I don't need to check my email immediately when I wake up in the morning, because I would hope no one else is up that early either. But, it's hard when we're working from home, and then you add kids at home on top of that, and it makes it even more difficult, which is why I think having these routines and looking at those, that maybe even making a schedule, is really helpful for our own sanity, to make sure we're not overworking ourselves. That's a great point, though. Okay. So with that, so Tanya, I think, is going to share some of these resources. If not, we'll email them out to you guys. But there's a ton of additional resources and information on routines and on creating those routines for yourself and the importance of those things. We could talk a lot more about specifics of, family meal time and that creative time and quiet time and exercise and all of those pieces. So a lot of these really help target some of those specifics that might be helpful for you and your families to create those routines. And I would say, even if you don't have a family, creating a routine for yourself really is very important. So we'll share those additional resources with you guys. So add any other questions you guys have in the chat there. We do have a short survey. If you guys can complete that for us, you can either do a text. So there's a phone number and a text code there for you, or we have an online. So you can go to our website to fill that evaluation out. They really help us to know how we did and what we can do to help improve. And it is, of course, voluntary and completely anonymous, of course. And I also want to promote and let you guys know that we are continuing our weekly webinar lunch and learns for you all. So next month, we are focusing on managing finances and possessions. So each week, same time, same location, via Zoom, we are going to focus on credit reports, on decluttering, on meal planning, on splurging. So join us there. There is a different registration link. So make sure you pre-register. Even if you can't join us live, you can still register for it, and it'll allow you to get the link to watch later. So tell your friends how much fun you had on our webinar series each week. Invite them to join you next month for our next set of series.